What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with Miss Anastasia Boone Talton. Now, I did a story on her on our African Diaspora News Insider channel, and she was working for Facebook, and she had issues with them, decided to take them to court, and we wanted to talk to her a little bit more about that particular story. So we're going to join with them and make sure that we have this great conversation. Now we're here with Miss Anastasia on the right-hand side that you will see, and then in the middle is her attorney, Taiga Varlock. So thank you, ladies, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so let's whoever want to take this first, maybe Miss Anastasia, what got you interested in working at Facebook?
I was in Georgia working as a consultant at PwC, and what got me interested in Facebook was, of course, hearing the need for more diverse talent coming into the company and also working on the inclusion piece. That was very interesting to me as a big tech company, coming out to work on that piece with the company.
Okay, so what was the hiring process like? Was it like very vigorous, or how did that go?
It wasn't very vigorous. Facebook actually reached out to me in regards to an opportunity, so I was contacted by a recruiter. The process moved very fast. I want to say I talked to a recruiter within November of 2017, and by December, I was already given an offer or told that I would be coming on board.
Okay, so you came on as basically part of like the HR department?
Yes.
Okay, so now you was brought in to look for talent like whoever, or to look for talent that could be African American or etc.
Well, my specialty has been over the years in diverse recruiting has been focusing on HBCUs. I actually went to an HBCU. I went to Fort Valley State University. So that's been my passion. And then also around military and disabled persons as well.
Okay, so you got hired at the job. How long were you there before you start having some, maybe something you say, this is kind of strange, before you start raising the side eye at some things?
Probably within the first 3 to 6 months. It was in increments, right? I would submit candidates, and I would notice that the candidates that I submitted would receive lower marks than their non-diverse counterparts. And it kind of raised my eyebrow like, well, what's going on here, right? And then I started to speak out about those things that I was seeing within the hiring process.
Okay, so for our audience, we don't. I'm just being upfront with you how we speak here. We don't the term. I don't like the term diversity. I don't like it. So
yeah,
the people you were submitting, who were you submitting? African Americans? Who were you submitting?
Mainly African Americans.
Okay, African Americans. You were selecting African Americans, and why were they supposedly scoring them so low?
Honestly, it seems as if they already had who they wanted in mind. A lot of times it was basically to go through the process, right? Just to check a box. I was told to fly candidates out to come out and interview on campus, but again, it was just to check the box.
Okay, so Facebook will waste money flying people out, and that's a cost. Bringing them possibly to a hotel or wherever they're going to stay, go to the campus, just to send them away.
Correct, or them not even move forward in the rest of the hiring process. Yes.
Okay, so in your opinion, if you can answer this, why do you think Facebook were doing this?
Again, honestly, to check the box. There's something called the diverse slate approach, which is typically called the Rooney Rule, right? Where you have a diverse candidate for every role that you submit. So I think it was more so just to check the box.
Okay, so now we watched, definitely reported on this. So eventually you started to speak up, at Facebook, say, hey, well, wait a minute. I'm noticing every person I bring in, they're being turned down. How many people have they actually hired that you recommended?
African Americans, the last time I was there were 2 individuals that were hired. They were hired in at lower tiers, right, than their non-diverse counterparts. But I hired about 3 to 4 in a I mean, I had a lot of recs. 3 to 4 is not really a lot, right? When you've flown out a lot of, or flew out, I'm sorry, a lot of candidates just to say you hit the check mark.
Okay, so when you mean non-diverse, do you mean white? What do you mean?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Caucasian. Okay, so
Yes.
basically, how many white candidates came through that you saw?
Ooh. Honestly, I can't give a number, but it's a lot. It's a
Okay,
lot. I mean, a lot of times they already knew that they wanted those candidates for the role.
okay, so basically, you lost count how many white candidates came in, but the black ones that you recommend are African Americans. They just kind of like fly them out, but they only hire
Right.
within your tenure, maybe 3. You said maybe 3 or 4 they hired.
Maybe 3 or 4, yeah.
Okay, and how many of them? What was the ratio between African American male to female?
It was 50-50. I can say that. It was a 50-50 mix. Men and women were hired, African Americans, while I was there.
Okay, now were they just replacing one that left, or they was adding?
This was either a replacement for someone who got promoted or in addition to the team. 2 of them I can say were new to the team. They were brand new roles.
Okay, so eventually you started to speak up at Facebook and you started to say, hey, well, hold on, I'm kind of noticing a pattern here. How did they respond to you when you first kind of talked about the pattern?
Well, initially I brought it to my manager saying, hey, I'm seeing where a lot of things are not going the way that we say they should go. And immediately I was pulled from the diversity team. I worked under the D&I team, which is headed by Maxine Williams. I was pulled from that team, and I was also pulled from a lot of events. I was pulled from a lot of memberships within the company, right, focusing on D&I or diversity and inclusion. I was taken out of a lot of important meetings around diversity. I was not invited to a lot of happy hours with my team. Of course, also noting I was the only African American on my team. And then also I wasn't given the traditional Facebook anniversary balloon, which is a really big deal at the company. When you make it a year, you're given a celebration and you're given a balloon. I was not given that.
Okay, so is it safe to say that at Facebook, and maybe you could elaborate on this, is it a good old boy system?
I believe so. When you think of the term "good old boy system" and what it means within organizations and what we traditionally know it to mean, yes.
Okay, so the supervisors that you have approached and you have brought this up, and when you brought it up, what was their overall response to you? I mean, like just in the vibe they was given in actual words.
You're not a quote unquote cultural fit for the company. And I was told I should probably start looking for opportunities at other companies.
Okay, so was this quote unquote culture in writing somewhere?
And in some of my reviews. So we do get reviewed as well every 6 months. So in some of my reviews, that is around the language, right? That I wasn't a cultural fit or I wasn't fitting in performance wise, right? So I do have documentation saying that, yes, I wasn't a cultural fit for the organization.
Okay, but when you were hired in, did they have some policy that say the culture here is X, Y, and Z? So in other words, you knew what this quote unquote culture was because it was considered policy.
No, there is nothing in writing about what the culture is. No.
Okay, well let me ask you a question. Ms. How you doing, sister? I'm gonna ask you a question since you're the attorney. To be told that she's not culturally fit, how does that play into the legal aspect?
Well, one thing that the law provides is that each employee should be able to go to work in an environment that is free from harassment, discrimination, and any other type of hostile environment that can affect the employee's ability to do their job. So when you are the only person of color or African American in the team, and somebody tells you that you are not a cultural fit, if that person has power over you, such as if they're a supervisor or a decision maker, even one statement such as that or any other kind of derogatory statement can be called harassment because it can change the way that you are allowed to do your job. So this basically supports our claim for harassment on the job.
Okay. So for them to say that and just use that almost as a basis for termination, she was terminated, correct?
Well, we can't really say that yet. We're still in the midst of trying to resolve this case.
Okay. Let's not even go there. She's not working there anymore. I'm not going to use that term. She's just not working there anymore, correct?
She is not actively working there right now.
Okay, she's not actively working there. Okay, well, a lot of people ain't actively working either. That's pretty bad. But what I'm saying is for them using that basis under California law, and I'm mistaken, the job is in California?
Yes, the job is in California, here in San Francisco Bay.
Okay, is California a right to work state?
Yes, California is an at-will state. So what that means is that the employer can fire you for any reason they see fit, as long as it is not illegal. But you cannot terminate somebody or change the conditions of their employment for an illegal purpose, such as a purpose based on their sex, their gender, their disability, their sometimes their pregnancy. Some places protect your marital status. It depends on the employer because not all employers are covered. You have to have a certain numbers of employees to be covered, but Facebook is a very large company, so the law regarding discrimination and harassment does apply there. So even though Ms. Talton wasn't quote unquote terminated by the company, anytime her job conditions change because of what we consider an illegal reason, that can be considered a violation of the law. It doesn't have to be a termination. It could be something affecting her position.
Okay. So could you explain, like, I know you talked about this, but I thought, and maybe you can clarify because I live in Texas. So, it's kind of like maybe about the same thing that an employer can terminate you for whatever reason and you could quit for whatever reason. You don't have to give an explanation unless it's some sort of contract that you guys that you signed. Facebook employees, they don't enter into contracts, right? They just kind of at will hires.
Well, no, I can't speak for everybody in the company. I mean, I'm sure that maybe some of the really, really high level decision makers may have contracts. And there may be also people there who are there for a limited time and a limited job. So I can't speak for the entire company. What I can say is that in California, the presumption is that an employment relationship is at will, and that goes for everybody. So unless there's some other evidence that the employment relationship is contractual, as you put it, it's presumed to be at will, meaning I can walk out, you can fire me as long as it's not done illegally.
Okay, so your client approaches you, after these things has happened to her. Have you known since you were practicing, attorney in California, as Facebook has been known for this type of practice with people suing them? Because from what I read in some other cases, it seems like this has been a quote unquote culture there for them getting sued.
Yes, I mean, we can even just look to 2 years ago when they were sued for literally keeping African Americans away from real estate ads on their platform. So they have been accused of lacking the ability to be fair when it comes to how they advertise. And that wasn't even employee based. That was just based on their consumers, which is who they're supposed to be in business for. We have that lawsuit, which was actually brought by HUD, which is a federal agency. We have a lawsuit in 2015, which was brought by an Asian American woman alleging gender bias as well as discrimination. And that was filed actually in the same courthouse that Anastasia's case is in. You have cases, we've done research all over the country from janitors up to executive level employees saying that they've been discriminated against. So this is not something new. And in fact, a simple Google search will show you that in the last year, the African American employees of the company wrote an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg stating the type of conditions they were working in and why they felt that they were being ignored and essentially kept out of being equal employees in the workplace. So this is nothing new.
Okay, so do you feel that based off of the court cases that's going on, Is it kind of safe to say that Facebook, based on the leanings, that they have an issue with women and they have an issue definitely with African Americans? Is that safe to say?
I wouldn't go so far as to make a blanket statement because everybody can change. Companies are people too. Even though most people don't know that they are considered a person in the eyes of the law, so they can change. I don't want to say that they have a problem. I'm going to say in this case there was a problem, which is why we had to go to court, and we're hoping to seek justice not only for Anastasia but for other people in her shoes who have also been treated as if they didn't have a voice and were simply hired essentially as window dressing for the company to check a box and say that they're practicing diversity.
Okay, so you guys keep mentioning checking a box. I mean, is there some sort of quota that you have to have some black people there? Because I mean, we just, for people who don't know, much about what you mean by checking a box. So we have some people that watch internationally as well. They may not understand that language.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have happened in recent years to get rid of what we call affirmative action. But back in the 1970s, affirmative action started as a program that would allow people of color who have been kept out of jobs to essentially have a slot set aside for them in order to get into a job or to get into a school. But through cases and litigation and policy, slowly the spirit of that law and the spirit of that policy has eroded. Okay, so there's not as many protections on the law books for people to have a job set aside for them because they are quote unquote in a minority. However, companies still have a very strong position on diversity, and most companies in Silicon Valley want to present themselves as being cutting edge and fostering an environment of diversity. So it's almost not necessarily a box that has to be checked as far as a legal box is concerned, but it's more so the culture of the company saying we want to bring in diversity, but it doesn't always happen.
Okay, so just so, like I said, I mentioned this earlier with Anastasia. I know you mentioned the affirmative action law was basically to give black people jobs at that time period, because every time we made applications, they would throw ours in the trash. It didn't start off as a quote unquote diversity of minorities. Like for us, here, counselor, we can't stand those words because those words have been meant to keep us out. Believe it or not, those diversity, minority, people of color. I think it's not you, but we have established those terms are very disrespectful because you don't even want to say African American or black. You get what I'm saying? Including Facebook. That's what. And then when they bring in these other people, they don't bring in people that look like me and you. They're bringing quote unquote other people outside of me and you. So that's why we have learned to throw that out, and hold these kind of companies accountable for not hiring black people or African Americans, whatever term you want to use. So they're using basically affirmative action to say we hired so many black people, or we interviewed so many black people, but we actually, we out of the federal guidelines. We're good. We're not going to be looked at by the Department of Labor. That's basically the mindset they're going with here.
Yes, I mean it's all about whether that candidate is the right fit, and that's what Ms. Boone Talton's case is about. In addition to what she has went through, she's bringing this case on behalf of people who are similarly situated who may not have gotten the scores that they needed in order to justify employment. And we believe that that was done in an improper fashion because those people essentially were finished before they even started and they weren't able to get the same job opportunities that other people got who were not black.
Okay. So, Miss Anastasia, let me ask you a question here. Part of the story we reported was about, and I'm not going into the details of this, but this was put out publicly, is that Facebook, you felt discriminated against you due to a disability. Is that safe to say?
Yes.
Okay. The part that you can say publicly, I'm not saying to add things in the case, your attorney's there. Why do you feel that they discriminate against you due to that, on top of the racial aspect?
Well, when I asked for support from our HR team around accommodations and what that would look like, again, it was thrown in my face. Well, you may not be a cultural fit here. You need to work on your performance. Accommodations will not be made.
Okay. So, and maybe you could answer this, or maybe your attorney answer this question. By the law, at least what I know, they're supposed to make things available for people who have disabilities. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what was their reasoning for not doing so?
It went back to me not being a cultural fit. When I asked for this disability, keep in mind that this was after I'd already spoken out about some things, right? So it was kind of like, well, let's go back to you maybe not being a cultural fit at the company, and we're not going to make accommodations. Focus on your performance. That is what I was told.
Okay. But what it has to do with anything with disability, though? That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't have anything to do with the disability.
Okay.
No.
So the person that was causing all the calamity, at least, are they still working there, or are they left?
I believe they're still working there. I believe so. I'm not absolutely 100% sure because I haven't been there in a few months now. But when I was last time I was there in an interaction with the company, they were still there.
Okay. So then my next question is going to be is this. Okay. So you went to, your attorney, you brought everything to her. And between you guys, you decided to file a lawsuit at a time period. I mean, was the evidence that overwhelming against them where it's just like, yeah, we got to do this?
Well, I presented the evidence to Tiega. Maybe she can speak to that as well. Just seeing the evidence herself. Did she think we had a very strong case or not?
Okay, Ms. Tiega, I pose the question to you.
So, I mean, we always here at our legal services try to do our best to resolve cases before having to litigate. But I am a litigator. I mean, I'm a trial attorney. So at the end of the day, that's what the justice system is for. If you cannot get justice without a fight, then we will fight. And that's what we decided to do. Because when we reached out to the employer, we were literally given no response. After sending process servers, hand deliverers, and all types of correspondence, we were left with no choice other than to move forward with this lawsuit. So they forced our hand.
Okay, so it seems like, and I've heard this before, like big corporations like Facebook, like they won't even pay attention to you until you have a lawsuit and they're forced to come to court. Is that usually about the model they take?
Well, every corporation is different. Again, I don't want to bash anyone because that's not why we're here. I would say all corporations are different. Some corporations do really much care about their reputation and they try to stop litigation before it starts. Other corporations will fight you until the end. So I've had a number of different experiences with corporations. I've been litigating since 2006. So I've kind of seen it all with companies, and some will do right and some won't.
Okay. So, I will ask you a question. So you just in the process of waiting for actual like a court date, or I know Corona has kind of screwed a lot of things up now, but
yeah,
that's about where you're at now, waiting on the court date itself.
Well, we do have a court date in July. That's our first court date. However, like you said, Corona has closed down essentially most of our courts for in-person appearances. Everything's being done now by fax or by courier. So there's a very good chance that the court date in July may not go forward. But we do have a court date. We do have a pending case.
Okay, so we saw the amount that's definitely put out there that you guys are suing for. So at Facebook, you guys basically ready to go to trial. You say, look, we ready to fight you to the end.
Correct. I'm a gladiator, but at the end of the day, we're also willing to talk. I think that at the end of the day, it always makes sense to understand each side's position before you go all the way. So we're always open to talking to them. However, if need be, we are willing to litigate this until verdict.
Okay, Anastasia, I got to ask you a question. You know, a lot of African Americans have talked about, like, you know, posts, you know, we've made on the platform, and we noticed some of our posts get deleted, right, from Facebook. But then we've noticed racist or even open white supremacists will be making posts on Facebook, and their things get to stay. And then we're looking at, you know, what you're going through. I mean, and you mentioned there was a good old boy system at Facebook. I mean, I'm not saying you're saying it, but it seems to me that, you know, Facebook in some ways, not saying every employee has this. I'm not even saying Mark Zuckerberg himself, but it seems like that people who are in control some way, somehow take issue against African Americans. Is that about the leanings?
Well, I can only speak for the HR department, right? In the area that I was in, I didn't have a whole lot to do with the engineering and technology side, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at the culture just from where I was, yes, definitely, right? And again, we're not here to bash anyone, but I think that because of the culture that has been created, it has opened doors for those type of things to happen, right? Or it makes it where it seems as if it's okay, right? Because of the culture. And this culture has been there for years, right? Even before I came. So it is safe to say, again, it is a good old boys club. And I think that, you know, it has opened the door for other areas of the company to feel like a lot of the things that they're doing is okay.
Well, I would say if something is the truth and it's a real life experience, for instance, your attorney said that about the previous lawsuits that they've had.
Mhm.
You mentioned what happened to you. I mean, I wouldn't say it's bashing. To me, bashing is saying, you know, unfounded or just inflating things that didn't even happen. The truth is the truth. And even, you know, people like in the past, Jesse Jackson, he was one of them that talked about there's no, you know, not a lot of black people working in companies like Facebook or Google, etc. And we have a lot of talented people within the black community who can do those jobs. So
Right.
when it comes to, you mentioned women as well, they had a previous case your attorney mentioned about women. What was the culture, you know, toward black women there? I mean, was it any black women, or you kind of one of the few black women?
There are a select few black women in the HR department, right, where I worked. And of course, again, I worked under Maxine Williams. So there were a few other black women within the company. But the culture was the same, right? Either you come in and you quote unquote drink the Kool-Aid and go along with the motion, or if you don't, you know, you're shunned out, as I was.
Okay, so going along to get along. So
Hmm.
did they ever try you out by making, quote unquote, trying to make jokes, but racialized jokes?
Um, no, no, mm-mm,
Okay, so they
no.
never mentioned anything regards to anything you thought, that's kind of weird. Why are they making those kind of comments about black people?
No, I have had a comment made about my hair. So I do have natural hair. And I don't always wear it in locks, right? But I've had comments made by my team members as far as my hair. You know, those things, can I touch it? You know, why don't you wear it straight? Why don't you wear it like this? You know, I've had those kind of comments made toward me, as an individual regarding my hair.
And how those comments make you feel?
Again, the only African American on the team, right? So it would typically be during meetings, right? So it made me feel, again, as if I didn't belong, right? It's kind of like, oh, well, I'm standing out, right? So it definitely makes you feel unincluded, right? Especially when you're sitting in a room with your counterparts who don't look like you and those comments are made, they make you feel very, very bad.
Yeah, I've always been one to like fight fire with fire no matter where I go. Like if somebody see, I guess they don't tell me certain things like that. Even though I have my hair short, you know, like, can I touch your hair?
Mm-hmm.
Like, either you
Mm-hmm.
gonna pay me because you know you usually have to pay somebody to touch my hair. So either you gonna
Mm-hmm.
pay me for that, or can I touch your hair? You know, okay, can you put your hair a
Yeah.
certain way? You know, make me feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. You know, I love to turn around on people. That's just, I don't know. I love to watch them cringe. But so they did that on top of, you know, which is very uncomfortable, you know, wearing natural hair. And I don't know what it is. So, you know, Paul Mooney had talked about that when we wear our hair straight, you know, how, you know, a lot of Caucasian people feel comfortable versus when we have our
Mm-hmm.
natural hair to grow out our head. You know, it's not nothing
Mm-hmm.
foreign you're putting in your head. This is why I'm more so supportive of black businesses and let with our people wear whatever hair they want to wear. You know, I support natural hair 100%. You know, I anytime I see somebody with natural hair, I say, hey, you know, I say it looks good on you, because I know it's just so attacked in our society.
And you should be able to be your authentic self, right?
Correct.
Going to workplaces, you should be able to be your authentic self. And I thought it was a place where I could be my authentic self, you know. I thought I could wear my natural hair and it didn't raise eyebrows or raise these type of comments, but that just was not so.
Okay, so where do we go from here? I mean, and maybe you can answer, and maybe you know, Taiga can answer that as well. Where do we go from here? Okay, the story is out, the information's out. I know you guys wanted to make sure everyone knows, because we already know that Facebook, listen, you can't say it, but I'll say it. Facebook has a culture of racism and white supremacy there. We've seen it when you have a person having their post taken down that just say support Black businesses, and it's taken down on hate speech. That is, but you let open white supremacists on the platform, and you said that you're not going to take their stuff down. Well, there is a culture over there. And to me, not saying you saying it, to me, your case is just proving more of it. But what is the next steps?
Well,
Diego?
yeah. Hi. So I think the next steps is to try to gain as much support as we can from the public. You know, it's difficult to get a story out nowadays, especially with so much of what we're going through having to do with COVID and just staying safe and staying self-quarantined and sheltering in place. It is difficult to get the press that we need. So we just ask that people share our story and not be afraid to ask questions if they have it. We're here to answer them for you, and we're going to keep fighting.
All right, ladies. Well, definitely, I want to thank you for joining us today on the show and letting our audience know, because there are people that use Facebook all over the world that come here and watch the show, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't know Facebook was getting down like that." And like you say, everything is about COVID-19, which is important. But for us here, we definitely want to cover what's going on in the community and hold these corporations definitely accountable for how they treat Black people. So Anastasia and Taiga, definitely thank you for taking your time out today to come talk to us and our audience about everything that you can discuss. And I definitely hope you win your case.
Thank you so much.